Hi, welcome to another episode of DAWNCast. My name is Kathy Ngo.
And hello, I'm Di Lee.
Today we have a very special guest. This is Lin Surch. Hello, Lin.
Hello. Hi, Kath. Hi, Di. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For those who don't know Lin is the founder and CEO of Beyond Gender. She's known for influencing hundreds of workplaces in the diversity and inclusion space. And we're so excited to have you here today because there's just so much to talk about with the coronavirus and how you're dealing with everything. But firstly, how are you finding the last couple of weeks? How's it been for you?
Well, the future of work is here, right? And we've been talking about it now for some years and it's been thrown upon us. For me personally, it's just been an enormous shift, and we've at Beyond Gender we've sort of launched straight into a response on the COVID-19 launch to ensure that we're taking a proactive approach to supporting workplaces and leaders and employees through this time. I know for myself personally, I've really ramped up the self-care as much as I can, but there too are days where I'm sure we're all in the same boat, where even self-care has just become, somewhat alien
and challenging
as well. Yeah, it's we might be bathing in sanitizer physically, but I think emotionally there it is, and psychologically it's just a whole new world. And I saw a fantastic piece, a fantastic article recently from a friend of mine in the mental health space who shared that it's okay not to be okay at the moment, and not only that, it's okay for us not to be launching into the next big thing for us professionally or personally if we're not ready and if we're not there yet.
Absolutely.
And to reach out to each other.
Absolutely.
And get that support.
And you're an ordained interfaith minister as well. So are you drawing faith into this whole in this period? Is that helping at all?
Yeah, look, definitely my relationship with spirit and, my spirituality, everyone's is different, is certainly helping me, absolutely. I've been sort of leaning in on some of the wise ones, as I like to call them, some of my favourites, Brene Brown, the Dalai Lama, Oprah Winfrey and some of her interviews. I've been really spending a concentrated amount of my morning every morning, sinking into videos, sinking into those teachings, and that has certainly helped me. Meditation as well also helps me, but again, that's an umbrella term and can be very different things for very many different people. But I will say that, yes, I'm an ordained interfaith minister. I'm the only queer identifying lesbian interfaith minister in Australia.
Wow.
I was privileged to be ordained last year in New York, and started my commencement at Riverside Church there in Manhattan. But I will say that with regards to interfaith inclusion in the workplace, I do think it's the next frontier for diversity and inclusion, and it interrelates very, very closely with health and wellbeing. It interrelates really, really closely with psychological safety and building trust, which also interlinks in a really timely way with this new way of working, as where many of us are moved into working from home. And so how do we build the capacity of our people? How do we build and ensure that our leaders are ready for this new way of working and building trust with their teams? So, but yes, I've gone off track somewhat, which I always will, but I know that my own spirituality, which I prefer to call it than faith, has certainly helped me as I plug in to that through this time.
So does that mean you don't believe in a particular God? Like, tell me how it all works, because I was baptized as a Catholic, and when I was at school, forced. Nothing wrong with that,
no.
But because my mum might be watching.
Yes.
But I've never seen it as spirituality. When I was growing up, I saw it as something that was the norm, you had to have a religion. But it's when I moved out of home that I started to see signs like the universe or whatever is telling me certain things. Is that what spirituality is? Like, how is it different to like a religion or a faith or something like that? How do you explain
Yeah,
it to
look, I think
people?
in some ways they can be intertwined, but they don't always have to be. You're right when you say, Kath, there around your intuition. You were really sort of tuning into that and hearing or seeing signs that were guiding you on your, life path, if you like. And if you listen to them and when you pay attention and don't ignore them, they can tend to take you in the right direction. And certainly, I think intuition is a big part of being connected with that higher part of ourselves, for want of a better term. When we think about faith and we think about organised religion, certainly not to take away from that, 61% of Australians, as per the most recent census, tell us that they are religious in some way or they are tapped into spirituality in some way, whatever that might be. That when we can find our own spirituality, when we can find what guides us best and what leads us to our best life, that's really what it's all about.
I mean, for me, just in terms of spirituality, I have discovered that.
Oh, tell us about
yes,
that.
it's not so much about. I mean, like Kathy, I was raised born a Catholic and raised a Catholic, and I think going to church, all of that. I mean, again, I've got to be careful because obviously. I don't. It's okay. I'm not rejecting the Catholic faith, but I think spirituality is about, for me, reflecting on reflecting internally, inwardly, and actually just reassessing my purpose and what it means to be human and how I can contribute and observing things. And it's really. At this point, probably like what you've said, for me, going and especially this period has made me really reflect on how to really contribute more meaningfully, and that's spirituality has so many meanings as well, doesn't it, Lynn?
Yeah, it really does. Spirituality for one person may and very often does look very, very different to what spirituality is and the experience of it to the next person. And it is an extremely personal thing. But you're absolutely right, Di. It's all around what is our purpose. And that is individual in some ways as well as collective. Spirituality is also about the interconnectivity of all of us. And if any time has shown us the interconnectivity of all of us, it's certainly during this global pandemic that we find ourselves in, and how important it is for us to remain connected with each other. And remain connected to our purpose, whatever that might be, whether that's our family, our loved ones, our work, a mixture of all of these things, or much more.
I know that, Catherine, you've got a few questions. Can I just go back to what you said earlier in terms of the mental health of people? Because it's something I really am very aware of and cognizant, or being cognizant about, in terms of how we actually talk about the impact of COVID-19, but taking into considerations people's mental health and well-being, and as you said, it's okay to be not okay. What are some of the advices that you have been given to people that have reached out to you at this point in time, and what message can you send out to our audience in terms of how to cope at this point in time?
Yeah, thanks, Di. I think it's so important again to remember that it's not a time for us to feel as though we need to be putting pressure on ourselves to be greater and more than we ever were or that we are. We're seeing so many courses being offered and other professional development opportunities being given at this time, and people thinking, oh, this is a time where I should be doing all of this. Not necessarily. It may very well be for some people, but my advice is where you're at. Meet yourself where you're at and take your time. It's so important for us to give ourselves and each other just additional amounts of love and additional amounts of care at this time, and really think of ourselves as we would our children if we have them. And if we don't have them, think about ourselves as our fur babies or those people that we love, and
Yes.
really give ourselves that extra TLC, that tender loving care at the moment, because it's so important. This is massive change, as so many of us know, and with great change often comes fantastic results, but we've got to get through this. And to do that, things like getting outside, making sure we definitely are getting sunshine and we are getting fresh air every day, even if it's just half an hour to an hour, but certainly making sure we're taking walks if we can, or getting out in nature in any way that we can, and connecting with each other. I know that we can't, because of the physical distancing, or social distancing, which I prefer to call physical distancing at this time.
Yeah, same
Keep
here.
social, keep connected, and just be patient and caring and loving with yourselves and each other. So important. Now, remembering as well that some of us are privileged to be able to do that in a much swifter, if you will, or easier way than others. You know, some of us will find ourselves in situations where we're now under the roofs of our homes, where we might be in abusive relationships or toxic situations.
Yeah, the stats
I
have
think
gone up, haven't they?
they have increased. So it's important to be aware of that as well. So stay in touch with your friends and your families. You know, maybe perhaps even just a regular Zoom or FaceTime, a regular text message or call to check in with each other as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I love your focus about well-being and taking care of ourselves. I must admit, like, I think we all went through that grieving stage at first, and then now, like, I've suddenly discovered myself as well. Like, I've just moved out west, and I started bushwalking the other day and started picking all these wildflowers.
Yes.
And it was just something that connected back to my childhood, because I used to steal the neighbours' flowers and try to resell it. I didn't get any sales because I stole it. But this time it's actually like wildflowers, like by the river, and it was just such a beautiful moment. And like
I actually stopped to smell the roses. I actually
literally
I stopped to smell the roses on my walk. So
we should,
Yeah.
and it's just a beautiful blessing in disguise amongst all of this.
That's exactly right. Such a beautiful thing to take the time. We have more time now. So to give ourselves that time to do things that make us feel good. It might be that picking of the flowers, a hot bath with bubbles, if you have a bath, whatever it might be. Yeah, absolutely. So
Or just
important.
get out the floaty, the inflatables.
Yeah.
you talk about you had to also, for your business, have to really launch into to obviously face the challenge of COVID-19. Do you want to share what you have had to do to shift your business? How it's working?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that I do actually believe that my life path to this point has led me here, and there are no coincidences. I've never believed in them, and I still don't to this day. And I say that because all of my training and my experience leading up to this time has equipped me and built within me and enabled me to be able to provide the services that we are now providing through Beyond Gender in direct response to COVID-19. So as many people, or some won't know, but some do, many do, Beyond Gender was originally launched because I was getting so many calls and emails and LinkedIn messages and contact in saying, Lynn, we want you to come and speak to our organisation, our people, about LGBTQI workplace inclusion, because I had many years experience doing just that. People coming and calling me and saying, I'm transgender, I want to transition at work. Lynn, I've heard that you're fantastic in supporting people with this. Can you come in and do that? Or can you speak at this conference or on this panel where we were last year together, whatever it might have been. So Beyond Gender was launched with a specific remit to begin that was LGBTQI workplace inclusion and trans and gender diversity in the workplace, and still is. But as per my ordination and my time in seminary, and now as an Interfaith Minister, I always knew that I was going to evolve Beyond Gender into interfaith inclusion and into spirituality in the workplace at some point in time. And alongside with that, in tandem with that, if you like, my time at the Employee Assistance Program, where I spent some time working, my time in resilience training and self-care and mentally healthy workplaces training and consulting with businesses, I was able to use all of that experience to actually launch the direct response to COVID-19, which is Beyond Gender's global, because we can be global now. I don't need to fly anywhere tomorrow to see you.
Yeah.
That's the beauty.
Global employee support program, which is a wellbeing program and a comprehensive one, which includes resilience training, leadership consulting, diversity and inclusion coaching at this time, as diversity and inclusion practitioners are moving into more of a focus on wellbeing and responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Work from home coaching and training for leaders as well, which is all around building trust and building trust within your teams, as well as a pastoral care service for employees, which is that one-on-one contact time with me for people to just have a chat.
Tell us more about that interfaith perspective, because I've been working in HR corporates for quite a while, and this is something that's quite new to me. So how can, because I know that you've worked in banking and finance for I think over 15 years, and I've worked for the big banks as well, and I'm just trying to think back then, like something like this would have been like, what the hell, like what is this?
You're absolutely right. But I must say that about just over a decade ago, people were saying, what the hell, to LGBTQI inclusion in the workplace as well. And look at how that grew and continues fantastically to grow. So with that in mind, you're absolutely right. There will be people saying, what the hell? And we don't have time, or we're not ready for this. But there is time now, and people better be ready, because for those organisations that aren't looking at spirituality at work, which by the way is not about religious beliefs. Spirituality at work is about people at work and their spirit needing to be energised. How do we do that? How do we improve the ethical behaviour of our people? How do we look at enhancing our culture at a team level and an organisational level through meaningful work, sense of community and values, which is what spiritual EQ, as we call it at Beyond Gender, or interfaith inclusion, is really all about, at the same time as being respectful of and getting to know people for their spiritual beliefs or faiths, whatever they might be. So it's a super important time, regardless of whether or not organisations are ready for it. Coming under the umbrella of wellbeing is really where it's at, because we're thinking about our people and how we can ensure we're sustaining our teams and the individuals in them through this time.
When do you think, I mean, as you've just said, you don't, whether or not organisations are ready for it or not. Obviously everybody now, most businesses, as you probably, we know, are kind of in a confusion and phase at the moment. When do you think is the right time for the messaging that you've got there to be introduced and getting leaders to actually start to now look at and preparing organisations and looking after their employees moving forward post COVID-19?
Well, Jo, I think the time is now for those proactive organisations that are ready to at least start the conversation. Now, we don't need to achieve everything overnight. We never do. These things take time anyway. But it's really important to remember that the time is now to at least start the conversation and begin to have a look at this different way of working and how we can empower our leaders and our employees to be the best that they can be at this time.
So what's next in, so you mentioned the interfaith perspective and spirituality. What do you see coming next within the diversity and inclusion space? So I'm always interested just to see and to hear.
You jumping ahead? there, Kath? You saying what's next after what's next?
My English is not good today, but I got too excited.
We're jumping ahead of the future. We're kind of projecting.
I can't help. I'm a control freak. I've been so control freak since this whole corona outbreak. I've been like, right, I got to be productive every day. By 9 o'clock, I have to have changed my clothes and brushed my teeth and everything. I can't help it.
That's it. Look, I think that many organisations have been doing some excellent work in mental health and wellbeing for some years now, and we've seen, people and teams and organisations, achieve greatness in this space in many, many ways. A lot of domestic violence training and empowering employees to be able to know where to go, who to go to, and to speak up if they're not feeling well, whether that's psychologically or otherwise. There's been such great work done. So I wouldn't necessarily say that health and wellbeing in the workplace is the next thing. I think it's already being done. It's underway, but it's not enough anymore just to say we have an EAP, an employee assistance program. It hasn't been enough to say that for some time, although not to take away from the wonderful EAPs that are out there and my friends that work within them. But knowing that we need to be doing more, we need to be building the resilience of our leaders, and we need to be looking at the emotional well-being of our staff in a new way, particularly because of the pandemic. So I see pastoral care in the workplace, which happens to be one of the services, shameless plug, that we provide at Beyond Gender. But I do see pastoral care being one of the next stages. We're not talking about religion here when we talk about pastoral care. We're talking about looking after the emotional and psychological well-being of each other and of our staff. Building trust is a huge part of this. A lot of leaders that I've spoken to over the years, they know intellectually what to do to build trust in their teams. But there's not a lot of vocabulary out there and discussion out there about how that actually plays out. So I think, I hope that answers the question. But I think the next thing is, looking after each other in a different way, and that includes pastoral care in the workplace, and it also includes building the resilience of your leaders.
So how can our listeners best reach you then?
Well, you can pop on to beyondgender.com.au or email me. Our box is info@beyondgender.com.au. We are also on LinkedIn, we're on Insta, and we're on Facebook as well. So you can contact anytime. Feel free to just dial in as well. Very old school over here. I love to have a chat on the phone. So give us a call or send us an email or link in via one of the social media channels.
Great. Any final words, any words of wisdoms or any favourite quotes or anything to share with our listeners?
To inspire our listeners.
Yeah. Because you're so calm. It's just like, I can listen to you forever.
Oh, thanks, Kath. Likewise. I think, look, I don't have any, it's amazing that I don't have any inspirational quotes just off of the top of my head today, because anyone who knows me well knows I post them on my private Facebook daily. But I think more from my heart, I really just want to just remind everyone to take the time at the moment and be gentle with yourselves and with each other during this time. Be gentle with your staff as well, and remember our connection. We are all connected, and we truly are in this together. So reach out for support.
Thank you.
Jinx.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Lynn.
you so much,
Thank you
Lynn.
both.
And for our listeners, that was Lin Surch, the CEO and founder of Beyond Gender. We're always eager to hear your stories. So if you're wanting to speak to us at DAWNCast, or you have a suggestion, just drop us a line, and don't forget to subscribe as well.
And thank you. And so see you again soon. So I'm Di Lee.
And I'm Kathy Ngo.